Hello everyone, this is Karos. What I'd like to talk to you about today is my Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition campaign. This is journal entry number 5. So we begin our session with the aftermath, if you will. The aftermath of the Ankeg battle and the destruction of the eggs and what exactly that means. So the argument was that they had not agreed to any sort of contract or there was no real obligation to continue down into the tunnels and to confront the Rat King. And they had already expended quite a bit of resources, both just, from their spellcasting perspective and from a monetary perspective. Clara's ammunition is not cheap. So there was a little discussion there on should we continue. Someone almost died. A couple people almost died. Let's go investigate this ship that's underneath the town a little bit more and see if there's anything of value down there. So the ship, this is kind of where maps kind of help fuel your imagination. So the maps by Gabriel on Roll20, there was a underground ship embedded in the water down there. And so I thought it would be neat if there was a story behind the ship. The ship had run aground wherever it was going, and just through time, through the few thousand years that it had been probably down there. I'd have to double check my notes to see how long it's exactly been down there, but just rough estimates. And I had determined that the earth had essentially swallowed it up, and that the river system that it was using had gone underground. So from there, I determined that it was an ancient civilization. It was carrying cargo from an ancient civilization. Most of it had been removed by the crew that had survived, but some of it was left behind. It was just too heavy to carry. So that's what the party found, was chests that contained coin. Now, if there's coin that has been underwater for quite some time, it's going to be damaged. So I went ahead and added that sort of extra depth where, they found this coin, but a lot of it's damaged. They found a lot of it. They found a lot of coin. A lot of it is damaged, but some of it not so much. So they weeded out that coin and decided they were only going to carry the good coin. Okay. And then they were going to sink the rest of it. So that kind of gave that interesting dynamic of, well, you found thousands of coins. You're only going to take a few hundred coins because the rest of it is so damaged. And we're going to move on with our story. Now here, we had a lot of an incident, so to speak, of it was hard to cross this water. Now, that was because there was a sort of a threat coming in. But was it really necessary to take the party through essentially that same trap again? As soon as Melindra said, "I'm going to tie a rope around you," the real threat of this was gone. So I just kind of said, for the sake of time and the story, and to not make it so annoying to go through, we just kind of skip by that. You managed to get out of the hole. You managed to get back to town, and then there was the effect of, what time is it? And I determined that the walled city just closed its gate. They didn't do well on the persuasion check to get into the gate, so they just pitched camp right outside the gate, and guards don't care. You're not getting in the city. You can do whatever you want outside the city, aside from going up to the farmhouses and murder hoboing everybody. But for the most part, it's better that you pitch a camp right here outside of our walls, and where we can keep an eye on you. There's no problem with that. And it created an interesting dynamic because once the gates were open, the guards were prepared to come out and address the party and figure out exactly what's going on with them. At the same time, a farmer had gathered his goods and things that he wanted to sell in the town and was ready to arrive at the town as soon as it was open. That sounds like a good, hardworking individual. And through conversation, he realized that the group had, for the most part, dealt with his problem. He was no longer going to be losing cattle as a result of these creatures. And he was already willing to pay. He didn't have a lot of money, so instead he was willing to offer cattle as a reward. I'll give you 2 cattle. And again, through the conversation, he realized that had they not intervened when they did, he probably would have lost another one in addition to the 2 that he was going to give. So he decided to go ahead and give them 3 instead. So that was sort of the benefit of, my phone's going off again. That was sort of the benefit of doing that. I'm just going to shut my phone off. And turn it all the way off. All right. And that was the benefit of doing that. The cows are worth gold. They're worth, in this case, lions. So one of the characters picked up everyone else was thinking, what are we going to do with cows? Well, one of the characters picked up, we can sell these things. There was an innkeeper earlier complaining about not having enough stuff. Maybe he'll buy them. And that was all it took. It just, the system back in the day wasn't only just coins, it was also goods. And so this was sort of introducing him to that concept of don't just look for a monetary reward, look for other rewards. And through a little bit of trade, you might be able to get more money than you otherwise would have been able to. Take the 3 cows, go sell them. You're getting 7 lions apiece. A single cow is worth up to 10. And that's in the PHB. If you go look under trade goods, you'll see 1 cow is worth 10 gold. So this guy bought 3 and he offered 7 just, because he's buying 3 at once. And so maybe he can get a really good deal on each individual one. And it turns out he was able to get that deal. Just as if the players would have been buying the 3 cattle, they would have probably been like, okay, but we're going to buy all 3. What about 7 gold? And they've done that in the past. Treat your NPCs like the players are treating your NPCs. Have the NPCs kind of treat the players in the same manner. Allow them, they're going to want to haggle just as much as the players are going to want to haggle. And that's what drives the economy. And essentially turns your D&D game into a player-run economy. And it makes sense. It makes a lot of sense for if the players are behaving like this thing is only worth 5 gold or 6 gold or 7 gold, then why shouldn't everybody else? And so the players shouldn't be able to sell cows for 10 gold if they're not willing to buy it for 10 gold, is basically what I'm getting at. So we continue down the road a little bit, and I can show you this on our little map here. And we went, let me get to where the resolution's better. We went to the first little dot that I have here, and if I right click, you can see we're on the Olmswalk coast, and the location is the Stonehenge, the Tree of Life. And this is where the session sort of concluded. The Tree of Life is something that I've carried over from previous games. So it is just they they just grow wherever they grow, and there's always some sort of mystical element surrounding them. And in this case, you hear about the water just constantly rushing off the leaves. It's not raining. It's just, it's almost raining underneath the tree. It's the tree itself is providing this water, and it creates this moat around itself. So there's a few descriptors that all the trees share, and there's more than one. It's just this is where one of them is located. And there's a druid that keeps watch over it, and there's generally going to be a druid that keeps watch over each of them. Sometimes there's an entire conclave guarding one of them. Sometimes it's just a single druid, and this druid makes a comment that most of his circle moved west to guard some other trees. And so that's something that the players should have been listening to. Now, there was almost a living aspect to this tree. The druid sort of directed it, and the tree laid down and offered itself as a place of rest for these characters. And one of the characters, Clara, had been so far in the site been very rejected. And this is sort of feeding into her backstory a little bit. Whereas her artificial intelligence unit was accepted. It was almost like Ashley could interact with this place. And so there's a lot of wild theories being thrown out as to what the reason is. And as a DM, you need to be able to explain your world without explaining your world. So, because you could theoretically just go to your players and say, this is how magic works. This is how this stuff works. And lay it out for them in a very textbook-oriented fashion. But instead, what I've done is said, okay, people are really just guessing, honestly, at what magic is and how it works and how it interacts with things. And there is a secret to be told. And there's the way that magic is described in D&D, and that is the way that those characters describe magic. And then there's the way magic is perceived by where Clara's from. And then there's a separation, and there's this gap. And it was explained in several episodes back that, we don't use magic, we use tech. And magic is dangerous, and tech is this. And now we're starting to see that maybe magic and tech doesn't really have that separation that the players even and the characters initially thought that there was. So by allowing Ashley to interact with this water, this luminescent glowing water, and she touched the tree, she hugged it. And more so, the druid was able to actually touch Ashley's face. So there's something going on there. And these are the puzzle pieces that I'm giving the players. These are the clues that will allow them to arrive at the final conclusion of this mystery that I've laid out in front of them. Whatever, and truly, I'm not even 100% sure if they know what the end goal is even supposed to be, what I'm trying to tell them. And we will see if they're able to uncover that in the next episode. Now, I've actually waited till Saturday, so today is game day, to make this video and make this journal entry. So I'm looking forward in a few hours to actually go ahead and explore this. So I hope you've enjoyed this and this little bit of insight into the game and into the campaign. And we will see what happens in the next session, which should be a lot bigger of a story arc involving this journey down this road. And that's really what we're exploring, right? Is we're journeying from Rye Hill to Lesage, and all of this stuff is happening in between. It's making it a little bit more interesting, I feel, and maybe you can incorporate some of that into your game. All right. And we will see you in a few hours.